decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction
which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen.
We salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Here.
Councilor Lenzi.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
9 present.
The chair would like to recognize Councilor Bill Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the council to please rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Joseph Sullivan, who passed away last week at the age of 90 years old. I had the privilege of knowing Mr. Sullivan for many years. I was his paper boy when I was young, and the last 10 years or so of his life, I brought communion to him on a regular basis. Mr. Sullivan was a United States Army veteran. He was among the first troops to land at the Battle of Normandy, and he later served in the Battle of the Bulge. He's a graduate of Boston University and worked for many years in the Social Security Administration, both in Lowell and elsewhere on the East Coast. He also suffered from multiple sclerosis for many, many years, was confined to a wheelchair for more than 30 years, and yet throughout that time kept his spirit high. He was a delightful man, a hero in service to our country, and will be sorely missed.
Can we all rise, please, in darkened chambers? May he rest in peace. If we can accept the minutes of the last meeting and place on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes are accepted and placed on file. We have a request for a suspension of the rules. This was not put on the agenda, and I'll read the reason why. Mayor Caulfield, please kindly suspend the rules this evening so that Chris Moran and some representatives from the Massachusetts Tobacco Control Program may address the council and provide information about the Ready, Set, Quit, Stop Smoking program. Move for suspension by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Suspension of the rules is in order. If you please come forward and give us your name and address, please.
Yes, good evening. I'm Donna Warner with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health Tobacco Control Program, and I'd like to thank the council for this opportunity to brief you on an important public health initiative that will launch this spring in Lowell. Because Lowell has a smoking rate that is 50% higher than the statewide average, we have selected Lowell this year for our Ready, Set, Quit program. Ready, Set, Quit is a promotion of our Smokers Quit line with distribution of free nicotine patches worth $50, and it will be given away to smokers who call a 1-800-TRY-TO-STOP number. Anyone who lives, works, or studies in Lowell can participate. Our goal is to help smokers quit in Lowell and help reduce the significant human and economic cost of tobacco use in this city. Ready, Set, Quit will launch in Lowell in late March, and to promote the program, we have partnered with the City of Lowell, the school department, Lowell Community Health Center, your hospitals, your college and university, your senior center, and other groups, and they'll help us to reach 30, 40, or more community groups in Lowell over the next month or two. We piloted the Ready, Set, Quit program in 4 cities, New Bedford, Fall River, Lawrence, and Worcester. It's a powerful program, and it's a proven program. In New Bedford and Fall River, we reached over 2,000 smokers. Earlier today, we met with the city manager's office, and other city representatives. We were joined by other institutions committed to partnering with us to reach every smoker in Lowell. I would like now to ask Dave Newman, who is works with us on communications, and DJ Wilson from the Mass Municipal Association to expand a bit on the program and to just mention briefly an important launch event that we'll host here in March.
Dave Newman, I live in Newton, Massachusetts. Thanks again for the chance to present the Ready, Set, Quit Lowell Quit Smoking campaign. These promotions that we've worked on have been very well received in other cities, generating significant earned media coverage by local outlets. The press has been an important component to the community-based outreach that's helped build awareness of the 800 number and the free nicotine patch supplies the department offers people who are ready to try and quit. The key earned media event has been a launch press conference in each city, usually at City Hall, with local elected officials and representatives from our other key partners. The simplicity of this whole effort is what makes it easy for people to try and get involved. We're simply asking people who smoke to try and make a quit attempt by calling 1-800-TRY-TO-STOP, and if they're eligible, they get a free patch kit sent to their home within a week. We hope the council will join us in helping to get the word out to your constituents through palm cards, through posters, and through email, and join us at the press conference here at City Hall, hopefully in late March. Thanks.
And lastly, my name is DJ Wilson. I'm the Tobacco Control Director at Mass Municipal Association in Boston. And Dave and Donna really have explained the program sufficiently. And I'm really just here to say that I do work in policy on tobacco control. So if you have any questions as counselors on this particular program or ramping it up to when it launches later in the year, or if you have any other issues on tobacco control, please feel free to call me at the MMA. And so we look forward to working with the council. And if you have any questions, we're happy to entertain them.
We thank you very much for your attendance. Council Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How long has this program, how long have you been into the city? Is this your very first time that you're here, or have you been here in the past?
This is our first time with this initiative in Lowell, and we began talking about it in December.
Well, let me just comment on this program. Almost 4 years ago, just for a whim, someone in City Hall was at a particular store buying the patch. And I said, gee, let me know how it works, and maybe I'll try it, because I was a very, very heavy smoker to the point where it was making me ill. It isn't really a good habit, but it's one that's very hard to break. It's very hard to do this cold turkey. I know firsthand about it. So this person succeeded, and I went and got the patch. And I said, gee whiz, I spent enough money to the government. I think that, like in the sin tax, I wish they could have helped me to pay for this patch. This is, by far, an excellent program. I will tell you, because of the patch, I've been almost 4 years without a cigarette. I am so proud to think that you're coming into our city to help, and I will help you in any way that I can to save people's lives. This is a very important message that you're delivering here today, to think that a little cigarette is not controlling my life and causing me to pay a ton of money and ruining my health at the same time. I'm not one to try to, reformed smoker that I'm trying to save the world, but this is an excellent program that you're offering. Thank you for being here. If we can gather people to try this, it's not easy to do it cold turkey. You need that patch, and so you're offering it for free. What's the harm in trying? So thank you very much. This is the great news of the city today.
Thank you. That's
Thank you.
exactly the message. Thank you for your personal
right.
story.
Once again, thank you very much for your attendance. It's a very serious issue, and we're happy that you're addressing it. Any more discussion on this particular issue? Thank you. And now moving on with the agenda, is a point in time, we have communications from Manager Lynch. If there's any councilors who would like to discuss those communications, please do so now. Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oops. I'm looking to see if it's on a different part of the agenda. It's on our desk tonight, the firefighters contract.
Yes, we were hoping to take that up under suspension of the rules a little bit later in the meeting.
Okay, that was all I had a question on.
Any other discussion on communications to the manager? Council Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is an invitation to a future home Nobis Engineering
Right.
for a groundbreaking. Can you elaborate anything about this company that's coming here?
Sure, it's actually, we're very excited. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this a little bit, Councilor. This is a company that's locating on Middlesex Avenue, one of the areas of the city, obviously, that we like seeing investment take place. It's an engineering firm. 50 employees that they're bringing into the city. They're taking a historically significant building, going in, renovating it, and relocating their entire staff into that facility. So it's certainly good news for the city that's taking place, and bringing those jobs here and bringing that investment to the city.
Yes, it is good news. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
That, Mr. Manager, that's Nobis Engineering,
Yes, it is.
and that will be Friday, the 1st,
At 11
11:30, 585 Middlesex Street.
That's correct.
And I invite every council to be there. There's going to be 50 permanent jobs, so it's an excellent way to introduce this firm to our city, and wish them well. I just have one communication. We all received it from the law department, and we indicated to the solicitor that we would abide by their ruling on this. And Councilor Martin will be the chairman now of the LTC, or the Cable TV Subcommittee, and the entire committee will stay intact, but Councilor Martin will be the chairperson. Just want to bring that forward. Any other communications? If not, accept the communications and place them on file by Councilor Lindsay, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. All in favor signify by saying aye. Communications are accepted. We have 2 out-of-state travel requests. The council like to take those both at once?
Yes, so moved.
Roll call.
Councilor Kazanjian,
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin,
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo, Councilor Broderick,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott,
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Moving on with the agenda. Please find attached applications for constableships for the current term beginning on January 1st, 2008 and terminating January 4, 2011 in the city of Lowell with my signature as submitted to me by the name, Mr. Raymond A. Cody, 145 Winthrop Avenue, Lowell, Mass. 01851. Mr. Guy Gill, 49.5 Elm Street, Andover, Mass. 01810. And Mr. Richard Carter, 510 Pleasant Street, Drake, Mass. 01826. Any discussion? Any questions? Roll call.
Councilor Kazanjian,
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott,
Yes.
9 yeas.
Order. Pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Sections 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Move to waive the full reading by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. Second reading by title pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Kazanjian,
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin,
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda. Ordinance. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 2 thereof, Administration, by adding the following in Article 4, Division 7, Office of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. Move to waive the full reading by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Elliott. Second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 2 thereof, Administration, by adding the following in Article 4, Division 7, Office of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. This ordinance will be forwarded to a public hearing February 5th. All in favor of the ordinance going to the public hearing February 5th indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The ordinance is going to a public hearing February 5th. An ordinance creating one director full-time, establishing the salary thereof in the Office of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. Moved to waive the full reading by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. Second reading by title, an ordinance creating one director full-time, establishing the salary thereof in the Office of Cultural Affairs and Special Events. Moved to send this ordinance to a public hearing by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Milonazo. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Council Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly support sending both of those last two items to a public hearing, but I was wondering if we could maybe briefly hear from the manager and see what the global picture is and what he's trying to accomplish with these ordinances.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, councilors, I'm handing out a couple of documents that we had prepared back in December, and I apologize that they weren't, I think we handed them out at that time to the council, and we should have had them in today's packet as well, but you'll have them tonight in time for the public hearing coming up. Essentially, what we're trying to accomplish here is implementing the Mount Auburn cultural plan that was completed last year and adopted by this council back in, I believe it was September. If you recall, there was an initiative, I believe it was Councilor Armin Mercier that initiated the mayor's task force on cultural affairs here in the city that raised the issue of what the city was doing with regards to its cultural development and the opportunities that were made available through the creative economy and the cultural economy, bringing artists into the community, taking advantage of all of the other various entertainment venues that we have within the city. What came out of that was support by the Lowell plan to fund a study that was conducted by the Mount Auburn Associates, which has extensive background in the development of cultural affairs. And they reviewed what's taking place in Lowell now and where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are. Certainly one of the strengths that they found was that we have a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of support out in the cultural community. There's certainly a number of organizations and individual entities that are trying to do more with regards to promoting culture within the city. What they found as our greatest weakness, however, was that there isn't a coordination that takes place. That we have all of these organizations and all of these individual artists and entrepreneurs that act without any type of consistent effort. So what we tried to do in response to that was to put renewed focus on our special events, our marketing, and our cultural affairs. Certainly in working with the council over the last number of months, one of the areas that I've heard a tremendous amount about is what are we doing with regards to our marketing? We spend a considerable sum of money each year, either directly through our city budget or indirectly through the arena or the auditorium, our contributions to the MRT, our contributions to Cool, in terms of what we're spending to try to bring people and entice people to come into the city. Yet there isn't a consistent message that goes out with regards to our marketing. So we wanted to, in addition to have someone that could bring together all the cultural entities, also create an office that focused upon a consistent message with regards to our marketing. And then thirdly, we're famous for certainly our folk festival, our Winterfest, the Southeast Asian Water Festival, all the various ethnic festivals that take place in the city. But again, it happens in such a fragmented way. Andy St. Ange does a great job in terms of the logistical support, but in terms of the promotion, in terms of bringing together the various parties to maximize the effectiveness of those events. We felt that we could do more with tying that in as well with the cultural affairs of the city. So what I've given to you tonight are a couple of documents with some information about the organizational structure that we're looking at. We wanted to have one person that's directing our efforts along those lines, to have the support staff to really achieve the mission that we're hoping to gain or hoping to achieve through this reorganization. And again, it's all referenced in that Mount Auburn study that the City Council adopted and endorsed. And I should point out that in terms of the funding of this position, it's already essentially funded through the city budget, and the other funding necessary to make this happen will come from grant monies that are available in the COOL budget.
Thank you,
Council Rita Mercier.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, how would the funding aspect of that work? Could I ask that, or I'm not supposed to? I want to know if
would
the
think-
money is going to go into one fund and be divided amongst all the cultural things, because I'm concerned about money that comes in from the state. Does the
I
CD...
just want to caution the council, this is going to a public hearing.
I'm not forming an opinion, I'm asking a question.
Okay.
And I just want to know if the funding that comes in from the state stays with, let's say, the CVB, for example, or let's say we as a council vote in the budget to give $400,000 to the auditorium. Will that money go to the auditorium, or will it go into a fund that this person will oversee? These are some of the questions that I have, so do you have an answer?
Sure. The state monies that come in will still go to the Lowell Cultural Council, and it will still, any money that goes to the CVB will still go to the CVB. Likewise, we have a contract for the auditorium on how much we contribute to that. That will still go to the auditorium. What this money that will be brought together, initially this year there really won't be any change within the budget structure. Next year, it's conceivable some of the, certainly the marketing money that's right now in the budget would be allocated within to this department. Likewise, special events would fall within this office. So you'd have a breakdown within that particular office of those particular line items. And you would also, in all likelihood, have the contribution to COOL and the contribution to the MRT that's already there and taking place. So all of that would fall. It would just show it in a different area within the budget, but it would still be designated.
So if this special...
So it wouldn't be just a lump of money of, let's say, adding it all up and it comes to $1 million and just saying $1 million into that account. We would break out how it would fall within that.
Well, I'm understanding that, let's say, for example, on this year's budget, that '08, the special events gets $100,000. That's what I have here. They requested $100,000. That's more or less what we gave them.
The special events right now, I believe, is $156,000. The CVB gets $100,000.
Well, I have MRT, $50,000.
Correct.
Special events, $100,000. I didn't see a correction. Cultural development, $100,000.
Cool.
CVB, $100,000.
$100,000.
And professional auditorium, $400,000. We have a line item of $750,000 in that.
Correct.
For marketing development. So how would that differ in '09? What do you?
It's hard for me to say right now, Counselor. I wouldn't see it differing any great amount in '09. Of course, we may make changes that will be brought to your attention in terms of how much we'd be allocating to each one of those.
So this is a person that would be put in this position that would oversee and coordinate the marketing strategies. If different individuals have their own way of marketing their personal venue, it's just this person keeps track of it all, or?
Right, and there's shared buying of ad space. There's coordination. For example, this year with the Winterfest, what we've done a little bit differently in sort of a rollout of this concept is we would be, we're trying to blend in more of the cultural activities of the city with Winterfest. In the past, Winterfest has been sort of a standalone operation, but we're hoping to utilize some additional money through some grant money that COOL has received to do more in the way of entertainment venues in the downtown area. It's someone that can oversee the events that are occurring and blending in other financial resources, grant monies, promotional activities to strengthen what we do in terms of the events and the cultural affairs of the city.
These are just some of the questions.
Yeah,
I wanted
and
to
they're
ask.
excellent.
Thank
I
you.
think they're excellent questions,
Thank
Councilor.
you.
Any more discussion on this particular issue? If not, we'll move on with the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. We
I think
take
we
a-
did approve it.
We take a vote to send this to public hearing?
We voted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 17 thereof entitled Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Martin, seconded by Council Kazanjian. Second reading by title, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 17 thereof entitled Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places. This will be going to a public hearing, if the council approves, February 5th. All in favor of the public hearing, February 5th, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ordinance is going to a public hearing, February 5th.
God.
And now we'll move into the public hearing. And the first on the public hearing. A loan order to borrow $5 million for the purpose of financing the cost of upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant and sewer collection system, facilities and engineering services for plans and specifications for the design and modifications to such facilities. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the microphone. Give us your name and address, please. Those wishing to speak in favor. In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to come forward and speak in opposition, please come forward and give us your name and address, please. Those wishing to speak in opposition, public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Counsel Rita Mercia, seconded by Counsel Armin Mercia. Roll call.
Counselor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Counselor Lenzi.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
We are still on the public hearing. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 13 thereof entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the microphone. Wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance, come to the microphone. In favor, in favor, in favor. Portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition, in opposition. Opposition. Public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the body? Move for approval by Counsel Broderick, seconded by Counsel Bill Martin. Roll call.
Counselor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Counselor Lenzi.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
The last article on the public hearing is a conduit location. National Grid requests 20 feet of conduit in Moody Street. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Is there a representative here from National Grid?
Motion to recess. Have the public hearing, but recess for 1 week.
Motion by Counsel Rita Mercia to recess this article for 1 week, seconded by Counsel Kazanjian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm asking for a suspension of the rules, so moved by Counsel Armin Mercia, seconded by Counsel Elliott. All in favor of the suspension signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
That's for the firefighters?
Yes. Suspension is an order. Authorizing the City Council to ratify and approve the execution by the City Manager of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lowell and Local 853 International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, covering the period July 1st, 2007 through June 30th, 2010. Move to waive the full reading by Counsel Milonazo, seconded by Counsel Broderick. Second reading by title. Authorizing the City Council to ratify and approve the execution by the City Manager of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lowell and Local 853 International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, covering the period July 1st, 2007 through June 30th, 2010. Council Broderick.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I have a number of questions, and I'm wondering if maybe it would be easier if you ran through the highlights of this. It looks similar to the Superior Officers contract we ratified, but rather than go paragraph by paragraph, it might be quicker if you go through it, and then maybe I can just ask a couple after.
Okay. Mr. Manager?
If I may, Council, you are correct. It is very similar to the agreement that we reached with the superior officers in terms of the wage increases that we'll be looking at over the next 3 years. But we have a number of other agreements that we reached. I will state at the outset that these were very productive negotiations. They moved very quickly. I think both parties felt that they were conducted in a very cooperative manner, and we're very pleased to reach this agreement and be able to bring it to the council. It was just ratified over the weekend, and that's why I apologize it wasn't in the packet, but we do want to get this approved and then move on with our other negotiations. In terms of what we've agreed to here, the salary, we'll be looking at a 1% increase on January 1st, so that would be a retroactive pay. January 1st of 2008. There'll be a 2% increase on July 1st of 2008, and another 2% increase on January 1st of 2009, and then an increase of 3% on July 1st, 2009. They did agree, the union did agree to move to a biweekly payroll at some point in the future when we work it out with all of the other bargaining units in the city, moving to that direction. The union did agree to the city's proposal to extend another option in terms of health insurance, and that's the preferred provider option health insurance, the PPO. We did agree to a modification to our educational incentive. We think it's important to have, to really incentivize our firefighters to continue their education. Up until now, they received an incentive for an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree. But unless you had that, there wasn't really any incentive to go on, to continue on. So we made a minor modification to that so that just to get people started, that they would go out and get those degrees at an incentive of $10 per credit with a maximum of $600. That $600 is still a substantial decrease from the full benefit or incentive you would receive if you received an associate or bachelor's, so there's still that incentive then to continue on and get that degree and not just stop at the $600. We did agree to a proposal to let vacation time for those firefighters that are on a day shift that are not on a company to take vacation hours on a between 1 and 10 hours to essentially break up their day and take part of it as a vacation day if need be. We did increase the cap on the maximum hours worked. Up until now, essentially a firefighter could work a full 24-hour shift and then a 14-hour shift after that. We increased this to 48 hours, so essentially now they can work 2 days in a row all the way through. So we felt that was a limit that we felt it was important to retain a limit, but we thought that we could go beyond the 38 hours. We do have an honor guard within the fire department that has that we utilize for various city events, and we agreed to provide comp time for those members when they were at city events. We've increased the paid detail rate. Occasionally there's a call for a firefighter at a particular event, and this is paid by the private party. It's not paid by the city, but we agreed to that change. That would be paid at the rate specified there. We did make a modification on the apparatus detail pay when a firefighter is moved from one location to another location. They do receive a $1 an hour right now. This would increase that to $2 an hour. However, we also cleared up some language within the contract regarding staying in the same firehouse but moving from one piece of apparatus to another. They were getting there was a compensation being paid there, so now that will not take place. So that is essentially a wash. Clothing allowance, we did increased that by $25, but we also did that in a way that the purpose for that is to cover personal items which may be lost on the job, in addition to just the uniform allowance. We did agree to hire one additional member per apparatus during declared states of emergency by the governor or the mayor. The funeral leave, this is clearing up some language within their contract regarding the use of funeral time, funeral leave for non-immediate family, as well as specifying when that leave could take place, when that would be counted as bereavement leave. We did clear up, at the union's request, clear up some language regarding the vacation bonus, so that when firefighters choose not to take their vacation time in the summer, which is the most active time, and obviously that's a strain on the department, we've provided them with a bonus. This clears up some language there, so there's more clarification on how that takes place. We put limits, we put some restrictive language in regarding exchange of time or swaps, so that if a member does not agrees to a swap and then doesn't actually come in to cover that time, then there's actually a prohibition on any exchange of time with that member for 3 months, as well as ensuring that there may be other discipline that would take place. We strengthened or clarified the language regarding substance abuse, so that any members that might have tested positive on a drug test know that what the actual schedule will be in terms of additional drug tests that would take place over a period of time, as well as the requirements to participate in the employee assistance program. We did make increases in a number of their stipends, the hazmat stipend, the EMT stipend, minor modifications there in return for language that was costing the city money in terms of the callback for mutual aid. So that particular section was stricken in its entirety. And that is it. So essentially, the money changes are offset by improvements for the city in terms of some language that is stricken, and then it's the same wage pattern of the 1, 2, 2, 3 that we had with the superior offices.
Council Broderick?
Thank you. So the savings we get that you've negotiated with they've gone along with the PPO and some of the others, is that going to pay for the increases or pay for the other increases in the contract?
The other increases in the contract would be paid for by modifications of language. For instance, that callback for mutual aid would pay for the stipends increases. The apparatus detail pay would be offset by the apparatus detail pay that was being paid for right now for members who are moving from one piece of apparatus to another within the same house. The PPO the savings that we would achieve from that would go towards helping to pay for the salary increases.
Okay.
So that would be any costs associated with this contract in terms of salary increases would be offset by savings that may be realized as members move from the master medical plan to the PPO.
So we don't know what that is, but we won't know until we see who signs up.
Right.
But we have exclusive of that, we have the money in the budget to pay for the increase now?
We are preparing a transfer that will be coming in at the next meeting, and that will pay for this, as well as the other superior's officer's contract and the hopefully the other contracts that will come in this year, and the other salary increases we're looking at for fiscal years 09 and fiscal year 10, we would accommodate within those budgets.
Okay. Thank you. I have no more questions.
Move approval by Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, can you explain a little bit more? I'm looking at item number 6. The parties agree to a maximum of consecutive hours worked from 38 to 48. Is that 48 consecutive hours that we'd have a firefighter working? And I guess I'm a little concerned that someone's going to be or can work 48 hours. What was the reasoning? What was the union's position on increasing that from 38 to 48?
This would be to basically to provide more flexibility for their members obviously, to be able to take time off and have other members carry, actually cover for those times. I will say that 48 hours is generally pretty standard as the maximum for departments that go to a 24-hour shift. There are a number of departments that have not put a maximum in, which is problematic, particularly in those departments where there's potentially 4 days off that firefighters can work, 3 days in a row. Keep in mind that that they are obviously not always working during that period of time in terms of out on calls. There is downtime within the department.
Okay. Secondly, on section 13, if you will, or item number 13, the vacation bonus, is that standard language that was in the other, in the superior officers, and is that, what is the reasoning behind that? Why are we giving it more vacation time?
They're not getting more vacation time. This is
Well,
just
an
a
incentive.
clarification of the vacation bonus that's already in place. This doesn't really change anything in terms of time off. This is has to do more with the amount of notice that they give us in order to get that vacation bonus. And actually, we see this. They see this as obviously positive to their members in terms of picking up some additional bonus time. But it also, when we've worked the numbers, it actually will be beneficial to the city as well, because when we have too many members out on vacation during the summer months, we have to fill those with overtime. And
Well,
so
that
this
was
will
going to be
help
my
us
next
with that.
question. Is that one of the reasons why we're trying to, to cut down on some of that, peak vacation time because of the overtime and of course.
This is one of those interesting examples within the contract that it's beneficial to both sides. Both sides win on this.
And on the PPO, you just mentioned that there's a savings. What would that savings be? And perhaps in the future, I think it'd be helpful certainly to me, to see maybe a side-by-side analysis on, what we're saving and, either in the COLA increase or the PPO, and come up with a bottom line figure. Because naturally we're all concerned hearing some of the economic, sort of gloomy forecast in the future and how that's going to transcend to this community.
It's difficult to quantify exactly what the savings will be from the PPO, because it's not that we're moving from the Master Medical to the PPO, which has taken place in some communities. I've been involved with that myself, where you eliminate the Master Medical and just go to straight PPO. Then you can easily quantify. You can assume that everyone that's on Master Medical is going to go to the PPO. That hasn't taken place here yet. We're hopeful, very frankly, that making the PPO available, people will get into that because there is money savings to them as well as to the city. They will see that, in fact, they can use the same doctors. They will see that there is more money in their paycheck at the end of the week because the premium is lower. And that there are certain wellness benefits associated with the PPO that don't exist within the Master Medical Plan. So we're hopeful once that happens that they will move over to that and that there will be savings.
What is our projection? We have any idea based upon the prior contract that we just approved from the police officers? Have we seen anything yet?
We haven't yet because we haven't gone through the open enrollment period yet.
Ah.
That doesn't take place till May.
Okay. Do we have any idea of what we're looking to save? Because that's, presumably is going to offset some of these other increases.
It should offset it. I don't have a number for you on that, Councilor. It's but if history in other communities is any example, or even here where we just recently put the PPO in for the school teachers and had an extra open enrollment for them, we did have a number of people that moved off the Master Medical to the PPO, and that's a number that's going to grow over time.
Okay. Well, as I did just allude to earlier, I certainly want to support and give folks a cost of living increase, but as we come down or we start to approach the budget time, these clearly have an impact, and I just want to make sure that we do have enough money and that we're not looking at a huge tax increase to cover these contracts. So knowing that these offsets, can we get a report on projected cost savings from this, just you know, for my own benefit?
We can do some work on that,
Okay,
Councilor.
great, thank you.
Council Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager. I do think the contract as presented is a fair contract, and I certainly plan to support it this evening. My question has to do with the language in the biweekly payroll, and I'm not sure if it's related or if it's pertinent, but I'm wondering, and not to pick on the fire department per se, but I'm just wondering how many of our employees actually have direct deposit. And the reason I ask is that sometimes you see the fire trucks out at the banks deposit, you know, I believe they're there on payroll day, and I'm just wondering from the standpoint of how many of our firefighters, or any employee for that matter, have direct deposit as a way to, again, keep costs down.
Well, that's a good point, Council. That's something that we've been trying to promote. We have a little over 50% of our employees that take advantage of direct deposit. We'd like to see that grow. I think that it's for convenience purposes. It's a great thing to use, and certainly there's money saved by the city when that were to if that were to take place. As of right now, we're trying to do this one step at a time. First going through the biweekly, and then down the road, perhaps looking at some changes with direct deposit.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, I just have one question. It might have been asked already, but you see a trend with the city employees in negotiations about the health care issue and trying to help the city with the savings there?
I think that there's a growing awareness of the issue of health insurance and health care costs here in the city. We've had some very productive meetings with the Insurance Advisory Committee, which is an employee-based committee that's required by statute, looking at some different options. I think there's growing interest or recognition that the Master Medical is an expensive plan, and that there may be some modifications that can take place in the future. But I think the important step is to at least get the PPO option out there as well as the HMO. And I think that, the employees, many of the employees that I've talked to and the union leadership recognizes that and knows that there's a benefit both to the employees and to the city if that were to take place.
Thank you. If there's any more discussion on this particular issue, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
We were on the topic of subcommittee reports. I know we don't have any reports to be made this evening. I just wanted to recognize the fact that Councilor Rita Mercia and her subcommittee, Parks and Recreation, will be convening a meeting Monday, January 28th, in the council chambers at 5 p.m. Also, members of that subcommittee are Councilor Broderick, Councilor Lindsay, and it's pertaining to the dog park and lights at College Stadium. And I just have a minor report to make. If you look at the subcommittee appointments, you will look under neighborhood and traffic subcommittees, and there's a little reference to recycling and utility issues. And I had a discussion this morning at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast with John Upham from National Grid and Peter Nagel from Keyspan. And instead of the council picking on the poor guy that comes forward with a petition, what we're going to do is that we're going to finalize all our requests from your constituents, double poles, lights out, etc., forward it to Chairman Kazanjian of the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee, and they have agreed to meet with us as many times as needed or meet on a quarterly basis. So we can have the executives of National Grid and Keyspan and City Hall bring our problems to them. We have 3 claims referred to the Law Department by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The claims are forwarded to the Law Department. The motions by Councilor Milonazo. City Council requests the City Manager to report on the status of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Act of 2007 pending before the Senate, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This actually is an act pending before the United States Senate. Actually, last year, in 2007, the House of Representatives did in fact pass a bill called the National Affordable Housing Trust Fund Act of 2007, and the Senate now is marking up their version. So I thought it would be important for either the Housing Subcommittee or even the Economic Development Subcommittee, but at least the Housing Subcommittee, take a look at this bill, contact Congresswoman Songas, and get an update as to where the bill currently stands. On the House side, it actually calls for upwards of $800 million to $1 billion on an annual basis through the federal government to fund upwards of 1.5 million housing units over the next 10 years. And they're talking about the trust fund will be allocated 60% to the cities and 40% to the states. So a city like Lowell would certainly be in line for their fair share of additional dollars. So again, I think it's an important bill to follow. I think it's something that could certainly benefit projects like the reinvention of Julian Steel that we're still working so diligently on as a community to make sure gets completed in a timely fashion. So again, it's a bill pending on the federal level, so if we could ask the city manager's office to contact the Congresswoman's office to get a current status, and then if we could maybe refer that information to the Housing Subcommittee for further report.
Counsel Martin?
Thanks. I was just going to suggest that we refer the matter to the Housing Issues Subcommittee for investigation and then a full report back to the council.
A motion by Counsel Martin to refer this to the Housing Subcommittee. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Counsel, that's an excellent motion.
Thank you.
It's warranted, believe me. Thank you. Moving on with the motions. Motion by Counsel Kazanjian. Request manager report status of Middlesex Shelter and number of group homes in Lowell. Seconded by Counsel Elliott. Counsel Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor Caulfield. I'll start off with the shelter. To the manager, what is actually happening with the shelter? I know we're going to spend well over $500 million in that jam plan area, and to me, I don't think we can leave that shelter there. Do we have any plans to move it?
We don't, Council, we don't have any plans to move it. It's a privately owned and operated facility, but I'd be happy to, we've been in discussion with them about a number of their issues that are going on out there, and based upon the motion, I'd be happy to, have a report prepared for the council that addresses those.
Well, I actually think we have to do something with it. We can't spend all that money there and leave that shelter the way it is now. I mean, it's just you go by there, you see 30, 40 people hanging outside, and who knows what's going on. And for people to move into that area and start up retail businesses, I think they're going to be discouraged. And once they get to the area and see where the shelter's going, and what it is, and if we don't have any intentions to move it, I just can't see it. Somebody gonna want to move in that area, to be honest with you. I did talk to some of the state delegation, and a lot of these people, and also talked to the Chief LaValle. A lot of these people have serious problems, and probably about 90% of the people are coming from out of the city and all over New England, according to Chief LaValle, coming from down from Maine, Boston, and different parts of New England. So, in other words, this is like a drop-off point for everybody in New England to come to Lowell. They know they're going to be taken care of in the shelter. And I know they have issues and problems, but why should we be the burden of these people coming from outside our city? I talked to some of the state delegation, and I mentioned to them, how about Tewksbury State Hospital? I mean, you got a beautiful facility out there with acres of land, and I know it had a detox center at one time. These individuals have drug problems, they have alcohol problems, and whatever other problems they might have, and keeping them in Middlesex Street in that environment is what they shouldn't be around. I mean, there's a package store around the corner, there's drugs in the area, there's a bar down the street, there's prostitution around, there's everything what they shouldn't have in that neighborhood is there. So the state delegation was in favor for it. They thought it was a great idea. I was wondering if we can set up a subcommittee and maybe get the state delegation down here and get them involved and see how we can get them out to Tewksbury State Hospital. It's a state-run facility, and it's got plenty of land, acres of land out there where these people will be out of the environment and maybe create some type of jobs on the facility for them, and I totally think it'd be a big factor for them to help them out with the needs they have. And as far as the shelter is concerned, that's pretty much it. I want to get into the group homes in the city. Do we have any idea how many group homes we have?
Actually, we were looking for that information earlier today. We don't have an exact number on that. We're going to try to track that down based on the motion that's before the council tonight. But no, we don't have an exact number for you right now.
Yeah, and I know some of these group homes are very, very helpful to some of the people, but again, we got group homes and halfway houses, and talking to Chief LaValle, they're coming from out of town and in these areas, and they're causing problems. We were at a meeting last Wednesday at the Mercia Center,
Right.
because, Mr. Manager, you were there, and he stated there was an individual from Boston in one of these halfway houses, and he was causing all type of robberies downtown.
Right.
So here we have an issue, and it took them probably 5 or 6 months before they caught up to this individual. He was a drug addict, and he needed needed money to fuel his drug addiction. So what he did was to rob different facilities and businesses. So in turn, what can we do to stop these group homes? And according to the building department, they can come in here and there's no zoning requirement at all.
That's correct.
And also, they don't, if it's a nonprofit, they don't pay any taxes.
That's correct.
So again, can we petition the state delegation maybe to change this ruling and let the city have some type of ruling on this, whether we want them in here or not? They can go anywhere, and they can go to Belvedere, they go to Pawtuckaville, and Highlands, Acre, wherever, they can go anywhere, and they grab these big Victorian houses because they can fit a lot of people in there. And like I said, some are very good, but there's also a lot that are bad, and once you get them in the neighborhood, you can't get them out.
Right. You are correct that this has been an issue that's been talked about by the council on numerous occasions that I'm aware of since I've been here. And by law, they are entitled to go anywhere. The zoning does not apply. That's the Dover Amendment really made that determination. And be happy again to get a report to you on the numbers and talk about some of those issues. There has been legislation filed in the past regarding this issue. It has not gone anywhere. Certainly, if the council wishes to file a home rule petition of this sort, actually, Councilor Elliott had a very similar motion that some work is still being done on of essentially giving communities that have over 10% of their housing stock as affordable. By state standards, would have a greater say in how group homes are located. But as I say, over time, the state legislature has been reluctant to pass anything of that sort. But certainly we can get that information to you.
Well, again, I'd like to refer this to a subcommittee so we can maybe get some of the building department involved. I mean, I know they have to be state certified and some have some type of license. Is this being followed up and checked to make sure they are? And if we do have a facility that's causing a lot of problems, I know there's one that with there's a few of them out there that the police act on calls on a daily basis. I mean, can we close them down at some point where it's a problem for the city?
Yeah, at least in one case, we are following up along those lines to see what our options are and to see what type of steps we can take either with the state or some other entity. And so certainly we are looking at those things. And I don't have an answer for you right now on that.
Yeah, and some of these group homes, they're nonprofits, but you have the board of directors that are getting paid big money, and they're living in these exclusive towns, and they go around the nonprofit status, and they are getting paid some big money, and they're getting state funding. So and they live out of town, so they don't care what happens in the city of Lowell. They know it's a dumping ground for whatever homeless or problem people we can put in here, and they don't have one iota, doesn't care one iota about the people in the city. So, yeah, what we can do, if we can refer that, Mr. Mayor, to some type of subcommittee and also to the state delegation to see if we can have a home
Councilor,
rule petition.
there's two subcommittees that I'm looking at, the Housing Subcommittee
How about the neighborhood
and the
subcommittee?
Neighborhood
the
Traffic
neighbor-
Subcommittee.
It's pretty
So
much like a
what
neighborhood,
a-
so.
Neighborhood
Right.
Traffic
Right.
Subcommittee. Let me get back to that, and
Okay.
we'll take a vote on that. And
Right.
Councilor Martin would like to speak on the issue.
Okay.
Councilor Elliott and Councilor Broderick.
Yeah.
Councilor Lindsay.
Um,
Councilor Milonazo.
I guess, as far as whether the shelter can or is willing to relocate, I mean, certainly I think we'd all be in favor of that. If the state delegation or the shelter itself saw fit to move to Tewksbury State Hospital or anywhere, I think that's something we're all in favor of. I'm less optimistic that that can be accomplished. And if that is in fact the case, I thought at the end of the year when this issue came up, there was a commitment made by representatives of the shelter to work with the city and try and improve the operation over there. I think, certainly one of the bigger issues that I see is this open-air courtyard, which is just, a magnet for problems, all the problems that Councilor Kazanjian discussed. And, I haven't been around a whole lot in the last month, but I have driven down Middlesex Street a couple of times recently, and I haven't noticed any improvement. So I really do think, and Councilor Kazanjian's absolutely right, if this, jam plan and Hamilton Canal District is going to work, we're going to need cooperation from that shelter to really improve their operation there. And so I think, the fact that this is going to be a persistent matter before a council subcommittee, maybe it needs to be that because it's that important. I've had developers, not the designated developers, but other developers express to me their concern about whether, the Hamilton Canal project can work as long as, the situation that we have at the upper end of Middlesex Street is allowed to persist. So I know, there are people with problems. I do agree that probably most of them are from out of town. And we may have some limitations on what we can do about it. But at least, the people from the shelter said and committed to this council that they were willing to work with us and improve their operation. And we need to get specific, I think, real specific, real fast about what those improvements are going to be.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick, Councilor Elliott, and Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this did come in at the end of last year, and in the shelter had indicated that they do want to work with the city, and I know we were going to talk to, or you were going to talk to the chief in terms of what can be done. It's a private entity. We can't make them sell. We can't make them relocate. Maybe if other people get involved and talk to them, they'd be willing to move somewhere. That would be, the ultimate home run, I think, here. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think it's a matter of enforcement and better policy over at the shelter. I drove by the other day at 7 o'clock in the morning. There are people just standing around outside, and they just hang out. And I don't know if it's a matter of something we can do to move them along. And there is more than just a shelter over there. We've got other issues that are the reason. It's a magnet. We've got money cashing stores that, in the area holding money as banks. It's a bad setup, and it's going to be a difficult chain to break over there without, some pretty strict enforcement, in my opinion. And I can't remember because it's been a couple months. Councilor Elliott filed something relative to the shelter. Were you, Mr. Manager, were you going to speak with the chief, and is he going to address us or come in with some type of plan, or what was the?
Mr. Manager?
I can't recall, Council, whether there was necessarily going to be a report back, and we can certainly prepare that report. We did meet with the chairman of the Transitional Living Center and the executive director. They are in the process of hiring a new executive director. They are now out of the, they have been moved out of that open air courtyard. They are no longer utilizing that courtyard. That has had ramifications, though, because now there's not that congregation taking place there, but there are some issues out now on the sidewalk. They are looking at a number of other, they are taking a number of other steps, or have committed to take a number of other steps that should alleviate that problem. Hopefully that will take place, or we anticipate that will take place with the new executive director. The police are looking at the potential of locating a substation there at the site. Again, I think that the motion is a good one in terms of getting a report to the council on a number of these issues, and I'd like an opportunity to at least present that in written form to the council. Again, I think that there's issues with regards to their moving. They have invested literally millions of dollars in that facility, and while certainly the Tewksbury State Hospital or some of the location may be a great site and very viable, again, they're a private entity, and it's ultimately up to them to make those decisions. But certainly, anything we can do to address some of the issues that we've had out there, we'd like to see happen.
Thank you. I mean, they coexist in Boston and other major cities, and I think it's a matter of cooperation and understanding what needs to take place and what the rules are going to be, because they are now standing out in front on the sidewalk, and that could be more of a problem visibility-wise. And I just think that everybody has to work together here, or else that whole area is going to have an effect on the whole project, which is huge. And as far as the group homes, I look forward to if the delegation comes into to the subcommittee, and maybe they can give us some likelihood of success in terms of changing that. My understanding is it's been tried, but it's a statewide issue that there's going to be a lot of resistance from other places that, unfortunately, I think these people are coming from and dumping here. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
I'm going to support the motion, and it's probably a good reminder for all of us that, the shelter or the people running it have not lived up to their end of the bargain, so to speak, since, I filed it several months ago. We all continue to drive by, and maybe the courtyard is closed, but the people that are hanging out are, they're a public nuisance. They're, honestly, it's an embarrassment, and it's clearly counterproductive to what we're trying to do down there. And if we can get it to move to Tewksbury State, probably would be the best thing, not only for that area, but for the people that, that use the facility, because there seems to be, I think as Councilor Kazanjian mentioned, there's package stores, and there just seems to be temptations there that they don't need. But putting that aside, I agree it's a public entity, and maybe getting the state involved. A private entity getting the state involved, because that's where they get the bulk of their funding. So that we got to continue to try something, because what's taking place is not working. Mr. Manager, can't the police enforce other, ordinances that we have? And, I'm thinking there's, we have a loitering ordinance, or, public drinking or public intoxication or something like this that, would send the message. Clearly it's got to be from the management, and we shouldn't tolerate those people. It's a dry shelter. And I've heard the same reports that have been mentioned earlier tonight. So much of the crime in the city can be tied back to that shelter. And that's not the purpose. That's not why it's there. We all agree that it's a service that that people do need, but it's not being run properly, similarly to those in other shelters. And I think we really need to crack down and take a strong stance, considering what we're trying to do in that area. So,
In response, the law department can certainly sit down with the police department and in the manager's office and go over some of the options that are available with respect to all of our existing ordinances, and take a look at what might work, and then prepare things that perhaps aren't currently being utilized, and send that back.
Okay, I think that'll be helpful. Because considering we don't have a lot of latitude with funding, or some of the other items, that they've got to abide by the law, and one way of doing that is using the ordinance or laws in place. Mr. Manager.
I will just to reiterate what the solicitor said. certainly we can sit down and look at some of those options. But the police are certainly well aware of the powers that they have and the ordinances and state laws that are on the books that they can utilize. I do know that Superintendent LaValle and I, as I said, did sit down with Dr. Passanen from the center. We talked about a number of these issues. There were the plans are being developed. The police have gone out there and have met with the staff and are trying to work with them on a number of different initiatives to address some of the problems. I'm not sure that I would say that a large number of the crimes in the city are necessarily tied to the shelter, but I will say that there are problems with the shelter there that are certainly having a detrimental impact on that neighborhood, and that's of great concern to me and great concern to DPD as we try to promote that area for investment. And again, we're trying to balance out the simultaneous needs of the city.
Okay, well, yeah, I heard this from police officers, Mr. Manager. So, I mean, I'm not pulling it out of thin air and the people that are working the streets, but, putting that aside, I agree with Council Martin. What has, the agreement that was, sort of put in place that they'd work to improve, certainly doesn't seem to be working. And, we need to do something. We need to try some other strategy. And I agree, a lot of these people are probably coming from out of town, knowing that they can get away with it, or whatever behavior or way they're conducting themselves, it's not being enforced. So, I clearly support the motion, and it's a good discussion because it's a major nuisance in that area we're trying to develop. So, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Council Lindsay, then Council Milonazo, then Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the motion also. Mr. Manager, I know there is a 10-year plan to end homelessness that exists in the city, and it was probably a year ago that I attended the first meeting of that, the kickoff. So it's probably a 9-year plan right now.
Well, the development of the plan is still in the works, so it's not actually in place as of yet.
Okay. And I think other towns have the same type of plans to end homelessness. Is this a realistic goal? Have we made any progress? I know there's been a lot of, there's been meetings and there's been a lot of information shared. What progress is being made, and is it a realistic goal that would solve this problem?
Well, I'm not sure of any community that's had 10 years yet to implement their plan. But certainly it's realistic in terms of developing strategies that can be phased in over a period of time with measurable aspects that you can see how you're doing in terms of reducing the number of homeless and trying to whittle away at the goals along the way to make it possible. In many cases, that means trying to shrink the size of your shelters and moving them into alternative forms of housing that are a more scattered site, that provide the social services needed to get them off the streets and either working or having developing the necessary skills so that they can work, providing them with in some cases, the mental health services that they need. In the long run, all of these are beneficial to the city and to the region. So, we're hoping that plan will be finished up this spring, and we'll be able to present that and start implementing it over the next 10 years.
I kind of think that's what Councilor Broderick was alluding to. There are also in the state, there are some probably model shelters where they do these types of positive things to get people back on their feet and back out into society.
Well, if I may, Councilor, I think that a couple different points there. I think you're right. There are some model shelters out there that we need to look at, or they need to look at. There was a great article actually in the Globe just over this weekend, I think, on some of the shelters in Boston that are very successful in areas that are going through the same thing that we're looking to do in this particular neighborhood. And there's coexistence that happens in those neighborhoods. And in fact, I have that on my desk, and I'll get a copy of that to the council. But Oh, okay, good. So, so I think that there are certainly some models, some examples out there that we should be looking at, and they should be looking at. The Transitional Living Center should be looking at as well. But on top of that, there's the goal here is to get away from the shelter concept. That's the quick fix, easy solution, is just send everyone to go to a shelter, and it really doesn't address the core problem of the homelessness problem. So that's where the 10-year plan is really looking to develop those strategies. And again, we'll be presenting that sometime this spring.
And where it mentions other homes in the city, and I know that you'll have a more extensive list of homes, but there's also the UTEC program for the troubled kids, and there's a YMCA program, I think, coming down to Merrimack Street, and they're doing a lot of positive things with kids.
Right.
And I think maybe if these organizations share some ideas, they might be able to help out the shelter, and I think the key word there was shrink or eliminate.
I think that's a great point.
Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can understand and appreciate Councilor Kazanjian's, the maker of the motion, for bringing this forward. I think it's a good motion, one that I'll support. Again, we all drive by the shelter and we see some things that we don't like going on there, and we also know that there are a number of group homes in the city, some doing some very good things, as Councilor Kazanjian mentioned, and some that really need to be looked after. I did have an occasion to speak with Dr. Passanen, who's the new chairman of the Transitional Center, and I've worked with Dr. Passanen for the last 20 years in my role as trustee at Lowell General Hospital, and he did assure me that through the board of directors of the shelter, as well as working with the new executive director, they will work with the city to bring about changes that will be positive. Again, would I like to see the shelter relocated? Yes. Do I think that based upon the right approach, it could coexist with what we're planning in that neighborhood? Yes. I know that there's shelters in Boston, one specifically in Cambridge, that does coexist very well within the neighborhood, but we have to see dramatic changes before that can take place. And I'm hoping that through Dr. Passanen's leadership, after my half-hour conversation with him last week, that those changes will start to take place. I'm happy to hear that they've closed the open area, because he said that was one thing they were going to do. They're also going to make changes to the meals program, as I understand it, to, again, impact in a positive way what's going on at the shelter. So, again, I think it is a good motion. I think referring it to the neighborhood subcommittee will keep light on the issue, and I think it's something that as we proceed with a $500 million economic renaissance for that neighborhood, it really does need to be a piece of the puzzle.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do sense the frustration of Councilor Kazanjian's motion, and if this were a perfect world, Tewksbury would open their arms and welcome the shelter there. This is not a perfect world. If this were a perfect world, we wouldn't have people that need help and direction through a facility like this. If this were a perfect world, we could use a patch like we did for me to get off of cigarettes and put it on a drug addict so they wouldn't need a drug anymore, nor they wouldn't need a drink anymore. But this is a city with many people, and we do have a facility that is well needed in this city. The problem here is enforcement, the rules. The director needs to say that you're welcome to stay here. It's a shame people are so down and out in their luck that they're homeless. I think when you think of a war that has a beginning and an end, there is no end to homelessness. It will always be there. We can try whatever we want to do. As long as there's drugs, there will be crime. And as long as there's drugs, there'll be homelessness and crime. It's all together. We just have to do the best that we can to minimize it. I just want to say about the shelter, there's people there that cook. They're wonderful. There are people there that counsel. There are wonderful people that try very hard to sustain the people in the shelter. We don't mean any disrespect to these people. There is a problem there because there's a lot more of the drugs going on. If we can eliminate the source, then I think we'll be all right. But I just want to make it perfectly clear that we sense the frustration. We need to do something to work together as a team here, because we're trying to improve that area that has long since been forgotten. I think we can do it. I think we can work together and live together with stricter rules and enforcement. Thank you.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is a good motion. It's one that's been before us a number of times. In fact, it wasn't that long ago when someone from the shelter came here, told us that there's a way to coexist with the people and the development that's going there, and shutting that courtyard only moved them from the courtyard to the sidewalk. I think one of the things that I'm encouraged about that you said, Mr. Manager, I think should be a priority, is a police substation right in that area where the police are visible, where those who are causing the problems, and they're not all causing the problems, okay, would know that if they're violating the law of ordinances, they can be arrested and thrown in a different shelter at Barica. I think a substation is important, not only for the shelter, but also for the garage. I think that we need some police presence on Middlesex Street. The jam plan will not work unless we straighten out the problems that that shelter is causing. I can't think of a developer who would take a look at that area and see what goes on in the morning, at night, and figure that they can invest in there. So I think the beginning, of course, is dialogue with the new director and making it abundantly clear that we can't tolerate this, and then backing that up with a police substation right in the area. I think that'll go a long way to begin straightening it out. We've tried to get that shelter moved to Tewksbury a number of times. There are things that are not available in Tewksbury that would prevent that from happening for the people who go there. But I think that it can be controlled because we're very limited as to what we can do. I mean, taking the shelter by eminent domain and relocating the people where, that's an option that doesn't seem to work, but I think continued dialogue. I think the motion is great because it's going to keep this in the front burner. But, Mr. Manager, I would strongly urge that a substation be put in that area, particularly for the shelter and also the security of the garage.
Mr.
Thank you.
Manager?
Counselor, I appreciate your comments, and I think I couldn't agree with you more. And I commit to you that there will be a substation in that area.
Good.
We're looking at a number of sites right now, either on a short or long-term basis, and there will be a substation out there in that area. And I do agree that the dialogue is crucial. We've had, as I say, we've had a couple of meetings so far, and I've run into Dr. Passon in a number of locations, and we continue to talk about many of the issues there. But I understand where Councilor Kazanjian, is coming from with this motion. I think there is a level of frustration. We don't see the changes happening as quickly as they can or should happen, and I think continuing to keep this on the front burner, as you describe it, is really the way that this is going to happen, and hopefully over a short period of time, we'll be able to take it off that front burner because we know the problem will be solved, or at least are mitigated.
Council Kazanjian and Council Mercia.
Okay. I know these individuals need help, and I know it's not a perfect world. I think the environment they're in right now, we're not helping them out one bit. They're, like I said, they're around alcohol, they're around drugs. You go by there, they're hanging around. I know they promised they were going to work with the city. There's 20 or 30 people hanging out on the sidewalk. I go by there daily, and I see them. And who knows what they're doing? You see a car stopping. Who knows if it's a drug transaction or what the case may be. And you see them walking around. It looks like they're high as a kite. Are we really helping these people by keeping them in the environment that's there now? I don't think so. I mean, that's why I suggested maybe if you could purchase this property by eminent domain and work with the state delegation, move them out to the Tewksbury State Hospital, keep them away from the environment that's troubling them, which is drugs and alcohol and whatever the case may be, and keep them in a dry environment where they're supposed to be. Right now, they're not in a dry environment where they're supposed to be. I mean, they can walk around the corner, go to the package store and buy whatever they want. And if they don't have the money, they break into something and they sell it for something and buy either drugs or alcohol. Out in Tewksbury State Hospital, and I'm not sure it can happen, but at least it's an option we can try to help these people out. Like I said, I don't think we're helping them out by keeping them where they are. And in turn, like I said, we're going to spend $500 million in that area, and the substation's great, but do you want the people that they have problems there where they can put them somewhere else And the city's going to be happy, satisfied, and the individuals are going to be satisfied in the long run. That's all I'm saying.
Council Rita Mercier, then we'll
Yes, lastly, I meant to say before, we talk about alcohol and drugs, but we got to remember some time ago, Mr. Mayor, when you, myself, and Councilor Richard Howe went to Boston to the Department of Mental Health and pleaded and begged for them to please don't close the facilities. They closed Danvers, they closed Solomon Mental Health. A lot of these people need their medication. They don't have the money, the wherewithal, and all these facilities are closed. And so what you're seeing in the street is probably better than what could be out into the street. These are people that are neglected for their medicine and things like that, and we have to deal with that, and they're on the street not being looked after. So that's another thing we got to think of.
if the council will allow me just to speak 2 minutes on this issue, no problem with that? Last Wednesday, Manager Lynch and I, and Councilor Kazanjian, and I mentioned the fact that the council were on other assignments. Councilor Milonazo is the chairman of the Public Safety Subcommittee. I let it be known that you couldn't just be there, but we represented you. And the frustrating thing with the entire issue, and Chief LaValle, the men and women of the police department, they do an incredible job. They're out there all the time. Now, the Chief LaValle put some statistics on the board for us to look at. In July and August, crime was spiked like Mount Everest, downtown Lowell. And he says, I'm going to tell you why. A gentleman who lives in Boston was released from jail and was referred to a halfway house in Lowell. That one person created all the crime. We are a very compassionate city, but we are not a doormat. And we should realize the fact we just can't reach out and there's other halfway houses in the state. Probably there's some down the Cape, and if there's none down there, there should be some. But this one person created havoc in the city. And the police finally arrested him. He's back in jail. How many halfway houses do we have? How many times are they sending these criminals to our city? I think that's the frustration that we're all in. And I think that's what we have to address. And if there's a halfway house in Boston, that's where that man should have stayed, not in Lowell, Massachusetts. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating to the police, and it's frustrating to the downtown businesses. We shouldn't allow it to continue. So, Councilor Kazanjian, I'm going to ask the council to refer this to the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee, which you are chair of. All in favor of that motion, signify by yes. Councilor Lindsay.
Just to put some closure to this motion very quickly. I know I went up Middlesex Street, and it's only been a two-way street for a short amount of time, and I was driving on the wrong side of the road, and I got up towards the shelter, and a couple of guys yelled at me from the shelter to tell me that I was on the wrong side of the road. So maybe we could get a couple of good guys to work in the substation, give them some responsibility, and they'll be a good influence on the rest of the guys in the shelter.
Okay, Councilor. This will be referred to the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee. All in favor, signify by saying aye. And I'm looking forward to attend those meetings, Councilor. Moving on with the agenda. Motion by Councilor Kazanjian. City Council requests the city manager take the necessary steps to limit access to Comiskey Alley between Market Street and Merrimack Street. Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. Also on Wednesday at the Mercy Center, we had that meeting, and this was brought up. Comiskey Alley actually runs between Market and Merrimack Street. And what's happening, they had two robberies there. One was the International Store on Market Street, and the other one was the Olympia Restaurant. And talking to Superintendent LaValle, he feels that they're coming from Moody Street and crossing through Comiskey Alley and doing the robberies, and then also escaping the same way. So I was wondering if we could put a fence with some type of gate lock it and on one side, and it'll still have access for the fire department to get on one end, whether it's Market Street or Merrimack Street, and if there's any issues or problems with the fire.
Mr.
But
Manager?
at least it'll stop the individuals from cutting across and doing the robberies and also escaping.
We'll certainly research that and see what options we have available to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on that motion? Yes.
There's no trash dumpsters there or anything. It's just strictly, like Council Mercer said, just an alleyway.
The only issue that I see is that we'd have to look at is some ownership issues and things like that.
Okay. Any more discussion on this motion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. All in favor? Motion by Council Elliott. City Council requests the city manager and the chief of police to meet with the Public Safety Subcommittee relative to neighborhood issues regarding the GRIP program. Seconded by Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This sort of goes along the lines of the following, a previous motion, 2 motions ago on group home, and this specifically is a program, Mr. Manager, that seems to have run amok in at least this particular group home, and the neighbors are concerned, and they've complained. That's been discussed at the neighborhood meeting, the Pawtuckaville Citizens Council meeting. And I personally see, I go by this home on Varnum Avenue on a regular basis, and apparently it's quite a problem to the police department. 'Cause I did call the chief and ask him to look into it. I guess better than 200 calls have been followed by the police. 200 calls they've gone to this location, and it's a problem. Only to find out when I was speaking to the chief that this program run by the Justice Institute, funded by the state and federal government, he has a lot of problems with. So the motion is to have you and the chief come before the Public Safety Committee, find out. I do understand that he has a meeting with the district attorney. But again, these teenage kids, apparently they're given money to try to transition. They're not from Lowell. They're brought in from other places, I believe, in the state. But what seems to be happening is, these troublemakers are finding the troublemakers in Lowell, and creating more of a problem, if you will. So, and this is transcending over to the Father Maguire Park, which I spoke to you over the summer. Kids hanging out, causing problems, and having an impact on the basketball and PYO and those things over there. So, that's the motion. It really is a problem, as you may be aware, that needs to be addressed. And this one is particularly for boys, and apparently there's another one funded on Wilder Street just for girls. And there's been some problems linked to other crimes in the city from these homes. So, that's the motion, and I look forward to the report and something being done.
Okay. Councilor Kazanja, on the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have an option to close these group homes down if we get 50 or more police calls in 6 months or a year, where there's 200 calls? Something has to be done. If they're not abiding by the laws and the rules, do we have the option? Can we talk to the law department and find out if that?
Well, that's something, as I think I said earlier, Council, that's something that we're looking at, particularly with one group home in particular that we're meeting with the company that runs these, as well as the organization that runs these, as well as the DA's office, to see what our options are to basically have them abide by the rules or close down. And so we're researching that right now, and it's a highly unusual situation that would occur. But it's something we are working on right now to see what the options are for us. And hopefully I'll have an answer for you on that within a short period of time.
Yeah, I think we should be able to do something. It's just not fair to the neighborhood.
Right, I agree.
It's to put up with this.
Any more discussion on this motion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Everybody agree? Motion passed. The last final motion of the evening, if there's no objection, I'll read it from here. By Mayor Caulfield, City Council requests the city manager and the Division of Planning and Development address concerns relative to substandard housing in our city, seconded by Council Rita Mercier. I'll be very brief on this motion. If the Department of Planning and Development can research with HUD, if there's any federal grants, I don't know if there's any state grants, but we all know where these homes exist. They are an eyesore, and it's not fair to the people who keep their property up. And if we can take one home and one street at a time, and if it's the landlord's fault, bring the landlord in. We have to get code enforcement in there. And I believe the house in Lower Centerville has been boarded up for too long. It's ridiculous. There's a house on Lafayette Street. We discussed that. There's a house on Elmer Street. It's been there for 2 years. There's homes in the lower highlands that have to be addressed. So that's the gist of the motion. And as long as we have a blind side to this, they're going to exist. But I think we have to address it, and it's only fair. Yes, Council Martin?
When you're finished.
Oh, okay. It's only fair to the entire city and to those neighborhoods that have been looking at this for a long time, and it's time that we address it. So, okay. Council Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the strategies we had to address this, I think, was the Two for Lowell program, which
Yes.
this council adopted, I think now, 6 or 7 years ago. So we've had 6 or 7 years now of between 10 and 20 homes. The idea is most of the substandard housing is multifamily, and to try to encourage some owner occupancy. That's what the whole program was about. So maybe as part of this, I'd like to get a report back from DPD to see what kind of success we've had.
Yes.
They have reported periodically on the Two for Lowell program as to how many of these homes are still owned by the original owners. I know at one point, many of them had significant physical improvements. I wonder if we're losing any to foreclosure, given the current state of the economy. So, and I'm not that this is the answer to all the housing problems in the city, but I think it's one approach that's had some success, and I think DPD does a good job of identifying programs and offering, first-time home buyer assistance and things like that. But clearly, we're not getting the job done. There remains much substandard housing, and we can't make everybody an owner-occupant. So I think it's a good motion. Certainly, more needs to be done, but I'd like to at least see a baseline report on how we're doing with the things we have operating right now.
Yes, Councilor Kazanjian, Councilor Broderick, yes.
Is it possible to get a task force together if it's not in place now with the building department, the code department, health department, fire department, police department to go around and check? When I was walking in the neighborhood, I saw a lot of these homes that were really in bad shape, and and it's just not fair to the neighbors that are out there that have to put up with this. Can we put that in place, and if it's not in place already, and
We do have the neighborhood impact team goes out, and we basically do what Mayor Caulfield mentioned. We do it, house by house, street by street, and we go out there with all our code enforcement people and the police and fire. We'd like to add the public works component into that as well to, really try to transform some of these neighborhoods that are going through a tough time. We do have a number of houses in the city that are boarded up that are in some state of foreclosure, one form or another, that we're trying to work with. But certainly in terms of code violations, that's one opportunity for us to deal with the problem of substandard housing. And the other area that the mayor mentioned in terms of seeing what federal or state monies are available, and there isn't a lot anymore along these lines, but see if we can identify some of those resources to help deal with, I think, Councilor Milanazzo's earlier motion tonight, to see what monies can be brought in to bring in more owner occupants into the neighborhoods. But we do have that task force that's out there. It's they don't actually go out during the winter months, but they were out there every Saturday all summer long.
Okay.
They went out and actually going back all the way into last spring.
so the winter months they don't go
They don't go out in the winter season now.
Okay.
So.
Also, and just look on the outside, the appearance of these homes. I mean, the grass is grown, the shrubs are not taken care of. Is there some type of ordinance that the city
Yes,
has in
there is.
place
Yes.
that we can mandate? Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay. Thank you.
Council Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good motion. I think there's a few components in terms of trying to get owner occupancy and some affordable housing, but there's also the enforcement issue, which is huge. And I know there's been motions brought by other councilors, Council Elliott, in terms of can we bring on more code inspectors and people to enforce, because it becomes a manpower issue. And I don't know if you could maybe, I'm sure you can provide us with some type of, what do we have now for staffing? What would this require to really step it up? And it comes down to money. It's going to be a money issue, like most things here, in terms of prioritizing as we come into a budget in the next few months. Do we want to spend our money enforcing the code and really making an impact? And what is it going to cost? And are there any state and federal funds available? That, you've indicated that there's really not a whole lot available right now. But just so I think it would be helpful, at least for me anyway, to understand what do we have now, who's doing it, how many do we have, what do other comparable cities or towns do in terms of enforcement, and and what would it cost us? Because I'm guessing that it coming into a tight budget cycle, that it's going to be a problem for most cities and towns, but particularly for us in terms of increasing the staffing, which I know the people down there work hard, and the city's fairly large in terms of enforcing all the problems out there, and there are a lot, and it's not fair to the neighborhoods. So if you could maybe put something together, Mr. Manager, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Request from Councilor Martin to get a report from DPD and get some more information, and I think we just take a number of homes that have to be addressed, and if we could refer this to Jim Milanazzo's Housing Subcommittee, and the Council Milanazzo and his committee look at this and address it, and we have to do something about it. We just can't let it continue to go on. So, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Yes, Councilor Mercia? Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, I'd like to suspend the rules and allow a motion pertaining to the water utilities to be read.
Motion to suspend the rules, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Suspension is in order.
I'll give you, Mr. Manager, this paper, but I'd like a report from the water utility department as to what policy is in place to test, maintain, and repair hydrants on a regular basis, and what is the operating schedule, and if a list exists as to the most recent repairs, I'd like to just see this information.
Okay.
And having said that, the very last thing under suspension is the fact that it seems quite evident that this council chamber is a visiting place for kings, such as the Cameroonian king and Guelpho. Well, we have a king posing as a mayor here, and on Saturday, this Saturday, January 26th, at the Doubletree Hotel, there will be, from Merrimack Valley Catholic Charities, is sponsoring a fundraising event to aid in what all we're talking about, homelessness, hunger, everything like this. And it's the New Orleans Dixieland Grand March, and they will have a king who will be like Caulfield, our mayor, and his ever so lovely queen, his wife Diane Caulfield. It'll be at the Doubletree in Lowell at 8 o'clock until midnight. So I just wanted to say that that's very important, and it's a good time, and there'll be dancing, and you're invited, and there'll be tickets sold at the door. It's a fundraising, they're gonna have a fundraiser band there, which is, Royal Sheridan and his band, $60 a single person, $100 for a couple, so it's a good night and it serves a good purpose. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Councilor Rita Mercia. I don't know if I'm a king. I do know my wife is a queen, so. Before we adjourn, this evening, I left a message with Mayor Sullivan of Lawrence, indicating that the city would reach out and help them if we can in any way, not in a monetary way, but the residents of this city, if there'll be an article in the paper, we can donate clothing, whatever they might need. There's over 200 people who don't have nowhere to live. And being a compassionate city we are, I know Lawrence would do the same for us. So with that said, I want to thank you for an excellent meeting. There was a lot of great discussions. And with that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Elliott. Thank you very much. Great job. Much better.